Greetings and welcome back to another exciting, fiery episode of Slay Stories. This episode is all about activism. I'm your host, Unzube Ufodike, and I've invited two amazing guests, Jemima and Anthony, who we recorded last year. With respect to activism, one can define activism as that individual or collective effort to promote, impede, direct, or intervene in social, political, economic, or environmental reform with the desire to make changes in society towards a perceived greater good. That might sound a bit too technical, but the question is, how do you turn up? How do you show up? What's your brand of activism? Is it in your hair, your language, your voting? And how do we make society a better place? There are so many legends in the LGBTQ community, from the Harvey Milks to the Marsha P. Johnsons. There are a range of inspiring folks you should check out. Another fantastic example of activism is UK Black Pride, which is Europe's largest celebration of African, Asian, Middle Eastern, Latin American, and Caribbean heritage LGBTQ plus people. This takes place every summer. We haven't had any the last couple of years because of Miss Rona, but let's see if it happens this year. And this representation is the most inclusive pride ever. So everyone has their own brand of activism, be they political or apolitical. We explore what activism means to two of our guests, Anthony and Jemima, who talk about what they do to make that change. So sit back, relax, like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Activism on Slay Stories. Don't go away. Welcome to Slay Stories. I'm your host, Unzube Ufodike, of a brand new show that spotlights inspiring individuals and initiatives that are championing diversity in their own unique way while slaying in their lane. Here, we shine a light on ignored, forgotten, and in some cases, erased his and her stories while making space for inclusive narratives that challenge the stereotypes and increase visibility. Today's episode is on activism, and we have two special guests here with us in our studios to help us unpack this civic responsibility. First up is Jamie. She's currently the creative director and founder of Effervescent, a fashion brand that designs clothing and accessories that tells your story and helps you connect with your tribe. She spent 16 years in the corporate world as an IRCA certified auditor, practitioner professional of the Chartered Quality Institute. She is also a certified personal trainer. Jamie's art is her voice, and that is her primary tool for activism. You can learn more on her website, effervescent.com. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. It's amazing the work you're doing, and your brand of activism is one I find particularly intriguing. Can you share a little bit more about that, please?
So my activism is basically through my art and through my voice and through owning my space, basically. So with a fashion brand, I incorporate meaning and passions into each fabric. So I design my fabric and my textiles. I don't use textiles from anywhere else. And I feel that anytime I go out, I'm sharing a message. And then people come up to me and like, oh, what does that mean? Why have you put binary code? And then and then you start a conversation. That is another way of approaching people without being intrusive, because they come to me. So I find that very powerful.
So you let your fashion and your clothing speak.
Exactly.
And you occupy space using that.
Yes.
Fantastic. And what inspired you to take that journey of fashion and expression through your art?
I've always loved fashion. And I'm someone who has suffered criticism and a lot of judgment just for being from people. So I'm like, how do I turn this around and use something I'm good at to change the narrative? For example, when it comes to personal training, I have people who look at me and they're like, oh, you're not a personal trainer just because I'm plus size. And then they meet me at the gym and everything is different, you know. So it's about changing the narrative. That's what it is, you know, and owning your truth. And that's it for me. That's been my journey.
And last question before I invite our next guest to the panel. In terms of the Afribix brand and the messages that you want people to communicate when they wear your brand, you know, you have these bright colors, you have, you know, people trying to occupy space. What's behind some of that?
So I'll pick one design to explain. So I have the Humankind collection. And I used binary code to send a message. Each line in binary code means racism has no color. Racism has no place. To love is human. Okay. We all bleed the same. So, but it's colorful, so it's in your face. Like, you can't go out and not be like, oh, what's that person wearing? And then it starts a conversation. That's why I like colors.
Yeah,
because,
striking colors.
You know.
Okay.
So that is one way, and I find it's very effective. I've had lots of interesting conversations with people who normally are like boxed in, and it's powerful.
Brilliant. My brand of activism, when I go on marches, I actually, you probably can't see right now, I've got lashes on. Beautiful. I tend to put these, like the NSARS, the Black Lives Matter marches I went on last year, because, you know, what better way to dismantle the patriarchy than a man wearing lashes? So my eyes are a bit red, so pardon me, but I'm going to welcome...
It's for a good cause.
It's for a good cause, indeed. Thank you so much. Next up is Dr. Anthony Everest. Music and writing has helped him deal with adversity. Narcolepsy and cataplexy has been a difficult experience for him to live with, but his creativity gives him purpose, drive, healing, ambition, direction, and suddenly, life has a new meaning to him, one being an inspiration and the other to give back. Dr. Everest, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
On Slave Stories, we like to talk about people that are doing amazing things. You've been the centerpiece of activism right from the first day I met you.
Really?
You've always used your music.
Oh, yeah.
Your expression, and you do write a lot. Do you want to share more about your brand of activism, please? Anthony?
Yeah, I am a writer, a musician, and a humanitarian. And writing definitely gave me a lot of power. When I was silenced, it gave me a voice. And music also enabled me express those emotions that were somehow just jarring inside. And I started a blog called Merciful Grace, and a spin-off of that became my own indie label. And I think I was writing a lot of conscious music, and they were saying your music makes people think, so I couldn't really get playlisted. So I thought, okay, well, I like what I'm doing, and my friends like what I'm doing. So the writing naturally evolved into a label, and I started to tackle things, social issues, and things like bad religion, and just going around things from a love perspective. And I felt like everybody should be included.
What is bad religion in your mind?
In my mind, okay, bad in my mind. You want to know what's going on in my mind? Okay, bad religion is anything that excludes anybody in the narrative of love. So if you want to talk about God, I believe God is love. I believe that there's nothing above love. And I feel that if you're talking about religion and your brand of religion is excluding other people, then you're becoming loveless. So I think that would be bad religion. And bad religion actually is a form of abuse. You know, it is a form of abuse. So, and I think it should be prosecuted the fullest law possible. There are people who have been traumatized, you know, through religion. We can do another show on that. And I just, from my personal experiences,
you came from the church, right?
My father's a reverend, was a reverend. In fact, my whole family run churches around this planet, you know, like from Catholic to white garment churches to Pentecostal. I have aunties and uncles who have degrees in psychology and pastors, and sometimes the things that they say, I'm like, seriously, did you just say that? Like, with all that degree? Like, you know, so for me, I had to have a different perspective altogether, and just nobody could give me answers to questions I wanted, so I had to do my own research and talk to people. So the blog developed a lot of content that helped to give people clarity and solace, and I could reflect back, and I just had stuff that's going to become books one day out of the blog. And then we made music out of it as well,
So you channeled all that information, all the energy into your creativity, your music that was more conscious, even though it wasn't getting playlisted, into your blog where you write and you have lots of people come to read and learn.
And do interviews as well. We've interviewed a lot of celebrities, and it just gave, because people knew that what I was in was quite different. So I gave people a platform where they could come and say what they wanted to say, what they couldn't say on BBC or what they couldn't say to their record label. And I'll say, well, tell me, I'll say it for you.
Tell us which celebrities and what did they say in your blog? Or do we have to go to multiple ways to get the tea?
I can't say too much, but I give an example. For instance, when I interviewed Macy Gray, she told me things that, because she's really cool, she's friends with Bobby Brown, right? So she told me, I asked about Whitney Houston, so she told me some things that transpired before she died. And then she said, but I'm telling you this, but I'm not telling you to put it in the document.
Yeah.
So they that level of trust goes on, and they get to come to, if they're going on tour and they want to do something, promote their brand, you can, and they feel free. They don't feel like they have to think about what they're saying, and they trust me, to some degree. And the good thing about the blog was that once I interview one person, they say, your questions are so good. Do you want to interview Rosie Gaines? Do you want to interview, other people? It was just like, and my lawyer told me, see, this is it. This is going to be really huge for, and he was right. So yeah. I'm just so grateful for that. And anybody can do it. You can all just open your own platform and express yourself without being silenced and be authentic.
Brilliant, brilliant. And in the next segment, we'll talk a little bit more about how we capture that energy and take it from the protest to the ballot box, or to how we make the change we need to see in society more lasting. But thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Dr. Everest. Yep. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Stay Stories. I'm Uzube Fedeke, your host with the crooked eyelashes, and we're talking about activism today. Still with us in the studio are our guests, Jamie and Dr. Everest. Welcome back.
Hey, how are you? How's the eye?
The eye is still hanging, but
I'll get eyelashes lessons next time. Don't worry, call me.
Please do, so I don't get glue inside my eyes.
Yeah.
But thank you. Now, with respect to activism, the last segment, we talked about how, we obviously use our art, our music, our body to express our brand of activism. What I'm curious to learn is, how do we move this from protest to policy? What is your view on using that civic rights you have? Okay, go on.
Ladies first.
So for me, I'll use body positivity and personal training industry as an example. There's not necessarily a policy, because we don't have like a international body policy in everything we do. However, we need more plus size personal trainers coming out and saying, I'm not a before picture. And that is something I don't do in I tell my clients and everybody, I understand the logic before, you put an after, but I am the before picture that they're saying is horrible, get rid of that, and you want to be this. So that is one way, actively, and anytime I have clients, I tell them, this is not, what is your why? Your why cannot be, you want to look good because somebody said so, or all that. What is your why for doing what you're doing? And right now there are more personal trainers who are coming out and owning space as plus size, because it's not, I always say, it's not about size. Fitness is not about size at all, and we need to stamp that out of the industry.
So you coach and you encourage a certain behavior within the fitness industry.
And another example is when they say, I'm going to be bitch body ready in 6 months.
No,
honey,
ready.
You're ready. You're ready now.
That's the attitude.
You're ready now. You're ready now. You can still walk in your body, but you're ready now. Always take up space. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and you're already beautiful the way you are. Take up space. Do what you want to do. Go to the beach, wear the bikini, whatever you want to do. Take up space.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And Dr. Everest?
I would think I'm all about a revolution. Bring it on. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I don't really vote. Sorry.
You don't vote?
I don't vote. I believe in a revolution. I want a proper bloodbath daydream going on in my head. I want to see it in full view. But realistically, that's the only way change.
Okay.
Yeah. When you said that, well, it's more or less the same thing. But
for example, you get your revolution. And then what next?
Well, change has to pursue, the revolution.
Would that come democratically or?
Democracy doesn't really work in Africa, as you can see. Like, no democratically elected government has ever, done anything really. I don't know. They either murder them, assassinate them, or there's a coup, and they just keep on. Even the all these little bits and pieces that were thrown to Africa during the lockdown, they were just like storing those things away from the people and giving a whole road, like one bag of rice and a loaf of bread. I mean, that's ridiculous. Those are not the people you want in office. So
I get that.
I think that until we all unite and say, we don't want you in our offices anymore, get out. And then we can now democratically come together and put our heads together and say, who do we want to put in charge?
So okay, if I get the gist, you're not voting because you don't like the people contesting. So if you did, you would vote.
I suppose if they were the right candidates that we elected, which I know are not rigged, if they're not rigged and people having their lineage continuing the same, what they've done before. I mean, it all looks like an organized scam to me politically.
Yeah,
so,
the challenge with protesting and expressing our displeasure with the system and not taking the next step to express that view at the ballot box means that our voices don't get heard in the spaces where there is power.
But I can tell you that there are lots of elections all the way to other continents where they still lie and cheat and they falsify the voting balloting system.
Sounds like politics.
So exactly. So what I'm saying is that we need an overhaul. We need a change, like from the roots. Like if you want to cut a tree down, you don't cut it halfway of the branch. You go to the roots, like take it out. So all the youths, the new generation, we need to decide what our future is. Do you want a 90-year-old man in office telling you how to live your life when the century has just turned the clock again and you're still perpetuating the same things that their grandmother taught them? You came to something I did last year before we went to the that lawyers thing, Christmas party thing, and there was this Ugandan president who was there. I sat actually behind him, and then I remember my friends were saying, okay, the president of Uganda is coming, behave. I said, okay, I'll be on my best behavior. Okay. The first thing they told me, I said, isn't he a homophobe? And then everybody looked at me, and I kind of got myself a bit like confused. I was thinking of the guy from Zimbabwe, but I think they both are actually in some ways. Yeah. So then I actually forgot, I thought, that's actually what created peace, because I thought that he was. And then I later realized, okay, he's just the same. But one thing he did say when he was doing his presentation, which I gave him, and when he was saying that, he was looking at me and he said, like, sometimes you inherit what your father taught you. You inherit what your father taught you. So it did make sense that some of these guys are just traditionally enrooted in what they've been given, and they just think that it's their right to continue to dictate. They are dictators sometimes. So I feel like for change, if you really, really want to vote properly, put the right candidates forward and then we'll vote for them.
Jamie seems to have a different view. Do you mind sharing, please?
No, I get the logic.
Yeah.
And yes, protest, but also another angle, taking it out, I'll steal something from you. Love, talking about love. Love and revolution. Now, if you want to change a system, and so you hate the system because it's violent, you can't use violence to change violence. Revolution,
though, was being figurative. I'm not saying
I know. I get it.
I said in my head, a bloodbath daydream. Keep up.
Yes, I get that.
Stay out of Anthony's head for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is important to vote, even if the votes don't count, but you can vote, so it doesn't have to be an election. It could be through a petition. It could be through attending something or talking to people, because how do you know someone else shares similar views to you if you're not represented?
Well, I listen to all their ramblings most of the time. I'm being silly right now. I mean, I listen to their ramblings when they want to get into office, and a lot of them will say things, even in the UK as well. They say things, and when they're in power, they do the total opposite. So I would just like, in an ideal world, although we don't live in one, I would think that we should have people who represent us, you know, and not have all these suits behind deciding who should represent us. And then it looks like you're voting for the same people anyway. You can't even pick and choose between them. Come on, I like figurative.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like sometimes we don't really have a choice to pick from. So that's what I'm saying. The change, the revolution, maybe the system needs to be reevaluated, and we decide how we get those people there that we choose from in the first. I mean, cast the net wider. Maybe we should start having teenagers being in power as well. Maybe we should have disabled
countries that have
in power as well.
Young people into their houses of parliament.
Yeah, maybe we should try that.
Yeah,
sorry.
Through voting, we need to have a system that.
So once you, so that's just it.
I am not
once
saying
we have
don't
representation,
vote. Exactly.
We vote for that
then
person.
we vote. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said the revolution. Change the system.
Yes.
It's corrupt.
The system is corrupt. You heard it from Dr. Everest, but still express your votes. You heard it from Jamie. I think voting does matter. Exercise your civic responsibility. That's all we have time for, I'm afraid, in this episode of Activism. I'd like to thank our guest, Dr. Anthony Everest, and Jamie for giving it to us live and direct in the studio. I'd also like to thank our audience, you, for your attention. Enjoy, keep slaying. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.